journalists, for instance. Committee to Protect Journalists, for instance, and almost every other day or at least every week, there is a news of a journalist arrested, a news of a journalist killed, a news about a journalist, who was harassed. And we can also, relate to same in our climb. We have to understand that safety of journalists is foundation to the impact that journalism can make. And I had mentioned from the beginning that we're dealing with sustainability and existential issues. So we have to understand that our journalism must include boundaries. It must have planning. We must build support systems to do this. And, I'll make more examples as we go, but some of you might know Anna Politkovskaya, the Russian journalist who was killed, I believe, in 2006, October 7, 2006. She was killed. She was shot down in the lift of her home, and she was killed on the birthday of the Russian president, October 7. And because, over time, she had experienced threats, she had experienced surveillance, intimidation, but eventually she was taken out. That is how serious the work you're doing is. So for those who came to journalism, some people came to journalism for the James Bond effect. Like, oh, investigative reporting, like, oh, this is cool. I'll just be saying these are the bad guys. And, they came for the adrenaline. Please know that adrenaline is not enough. You have to be safety conscious. You can actually get killed for this job. So holistic safety and today's landscape. So what I've done is, just shown what holistic safety is. The safety dimension is that bar. And then what it looks like today, because what we have seen is that the safety of journalists has always been an issue over time. Over time, the safety of journalists has always been an issue. Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Those in power are often corrupt. And if they are outed, then they go after those who do that. But we're also seeing new dimensions of the compromise to this safety as we go on in life and as things develop, as technology, for instance, develop, we're seeing more online threats to journalists. So threats have evolved from, mostly before it was physical threats. Somebody who is tracking you will be, maybe following you in a car and all that. But you might not see anybody following you in a car or somebody taking the bus with you right now. But you may be under surveillance all the same. They may have planted a camera in your space. Somebody might be watching you through your system. Somebody might be listening to you through your phone. So the complexity, it's now even more complex, the safety challenges that journalists have to deal with. And this has to do with physical, digital, legal, psychosocial, financial risk is also a risk. Sometimes organizational risks. You work with an organization. It can be both ways. If you work with an high-profile investigative journalism organization, let's say you are working at Premium Times, you are working at Foundation for Investigative Journalism, that's good because it means that the organization understands the work and all of that. But it also means that representatives of the state security service can walk into your office at any time. And if you are unlucky to be the person, the editor is not around, and you're unlucky to be the first person they see, they might just pick you up and you might spend some days in their custody before you get out. Also, if you're working in an organization that is unethical, it can also give you challenges on the other side because mess up is normal. And if there's a mess up, protection is not sure. So either way, you have risk. So why am I emphasizing this? I'm emphasizing this because sometimes some of us feel like maybe because we do good journalism, we are now protected from the risk, or I work with this big organization, I'm now protected from the risk, or I work with a small organization who will care about me. Look at what happened to Pelumi Onifade. The young boy, he just went to cover a story. It's from a media organization that many of us did not know anything about until he was killed. Life actually taken away. No one would have thought that that would happen, but it did happen. So I'm not going through line by line, or let me go through now, but I just wanted to speak to, the exact thing that you should be paying attention to. So there's physical dimension to safety, and that can include, surveillance, people tracking you, people telling you. And sometimes these safety issues, let me also underscore that they can happen simultaneously. So somebody can actually call you on phone, which may be, classified digital, and then give you physical threats, tell you just got down from the car, you are entering your house now. And these stories I'm telling are stories that some of you have experienced. Juliana Francis is in the room. Some of you have experienced, or some of you have heard, there are accounts that I've heard over and over and over again from journalists, training them, or, helping them to do stories, or, handing awards and all of that. So it can include detention, arrests, and, sometimes people get injured. Photo journalists get injured. The people who carry the cameras, the camera person might get injured. Some people get disability from these attacks. Some people actually lose their life, and people live in perpetual fear. I think one overarching common thing around all kinds of exposure to risk is fear. And what fear causes, which I'll speak about later, is that it makes you to, in street balance, you decide to give yourself brain. In Nigeria street balance. Please, if something I say, because the room is a bit quiet, I don't know. That's the thing about online training. So if something I say resonates with you, go ahead and, use an emoji, make a comment, and say something, so that we have interaction in the room as we go. So somebody, you just decide that, okay, I have a family. Let me respect myself, and let me be careful what I'm doing. And sometimes no good story comes out because of that. Of course, there's digital dimension to the safety. Your devices can be compromised. One of these days, we'll actually bring in specialists. WSIGA team, please note, we'll bring in a specialist to teach people, what you can do, how you can check if your device is compromised, whether it's your computer or it's your phone, and what you can do to mitigate this. Once, when I was doing my fellowship at Stanford, we were given no, it wasn't a fellowship, it was an investigative journalism conference that I had gone to. I can't remember which of but I think perhaps it was the Global Investigative Journalism, one of the editions. We're given these pouches, and the pouch, when you throw your phone inside it, nobody can track it. It can't receive any signal. You cannot also receive calls, but at least you can throw it in, and it's not easy for people to pick any signal for your phone or tap your phone while it is in that pouch. So there are things that people have developed. So your device can be compromised. You can be attacked online. People can bully you online. There's a lot of online bullying happening on X and other digital platform right now. People go into people's emails and they actually threaten them. And the effects can be that sometimes your sources can be exposed. You can lose data. You can have reputational damage because, for instance, somebody can take something that you wanted that is not supposed to be public and actually use it outside. I won't go line by line. My time is running fast. The psychological, there is financial, the fact that you cannot even meet your basic needs. It can make you vulnerable to compromise. There is organizational threat, a weak institution, or sometimes a very strong institution, inadequate safety protocols. There can be threats to your family and social life. People can actually begin to say, oh, we know where your children are and all of that. And all of this can cause emotional distress and the rest. Let me move on fast. So what are the pillars? How do you actually prepare? What are the key pillars to ensure that you are safe as a journalist? The first thing is that you must prepare. Whenever you want to do a story, please do a risk assessment. Prepare. Prepare. I am going to do a story on mining in Abeokuta. Generally, you say, Abeokuta is just here. No, but these are people's bread and butter that you are going to investigate. If the person is stealing, the money they are stealing, they are using it to do life. So you're a threat. So think about it. Do your risk assessment before you go and investigate, not just political actors, but private sector people, anybody at all. Prepare, do your risk assessment. Even for us as a not-for-profit and a support ecosystem building organization for investigative reporting and journalism generally, we do risk assessment on projects. This project, can it affect us? What can happen? Protection, use Signal. Signal is a platform for those of you who may not know, for sending messages, encrypted messages. Use encrypted storage, use password managers to keep yourself safe. Partnerships and collaborations. Notify your editors, notify, trusted contacts before field trips. Some of you know these things, but ask yourself, do you do the things that you know? So if you already know them, it's fine. It's good that you are here. Ask yourself, am I conscious? Do I actually go through these steps? Or sometimes you get so used to the fact that you're an investigative reporter that you don't go through the protocols for the story you want to do. And it might just be that story that exposes you. You might have been fine, at least physically up till now, but it might just be this story that you did not check. So please check psychological care, debrief, talk to somebody. WSIJ has support for psychosocial support. Please, you can, my colleagues will post the link. It's something, it was funded, but even now, WSIJ uses its funds to do it because it is so important to us that you can speak to somebody to tell you, that you did this story on war. Do you know that is why you're having nightmares? This is what you can do to stop the nightmares. You have panic attacks. Maybe it's a story. Sometimes it is, you just do story even on, stolen money, and you're apprehensive and you are traumatized because you're like, how can somebody steal 10 billion? How can somebody steal 1 trillion? And you're actually traumatized. So you have to debrief. Legal and policy awareness. This is so important. Whenever I get to when my time stops, I will stop. But you have the slides. This is so important. Please, even if you don't work in a big organization that has a legal department, in big organization, there's a legal department. And in organizations that are committed to investigative reporting, they will have a lawyer at hand. They will look at the story for language. Sometimes you may be careless with your language, and it can cost you a lawsuit that can totally wreck you individually and wreck your profession. So you have to be prepared. Language use, access to the laws that surround the story that you are writing. What are the laws? Cybercrime laws, all of these laws. Many times when we ask journalists, and we can try it right now, if you have read let me go to, if you have read the Freedom of Information Act, please raise your hand. I've read the Freedom of Information Act. Raise your hand up. Okay, I have a small screen, but just a screen because I'm sharing my screen. But WSIJ can help to see. You see, I'm scrolling through, and actually, most of the people in this room have not read the Freedom of Information Act. And that is it. So only Juliana Francis has her hands up. And okay, I see Sadiqa to that too. So if you have not read the laws, how do you know whether you have flouted a law? How do you know whether you have flouted? And sometimes there are laws hidden, laws about, information sharing hidden in other laws. For instance, if you read the Freedom of Information Act, you see that some of the biggest issues are security issues, how you cover security. You can actually breach a law of protection of the country by how you cover security. So you have to read the laws. Then financial readiness, emergency funds, and insurance support. I know that as a society, we are not people who really like insurance because our government does not force it, because government it doesn't force it. So we don't really care about it. But it's something you should consider. And it's something that our organizations, those of you that are editors, leaders of organization, begin to think about. If somebody is going to cover a story, don't let them scrounge to do that story. Don't let them be so financially distressed that they compromise their safety. They decide to go and sleep somewhere they should not sleep because the money is not enough. Then stakeholders mapping. There's something called PEP, politically exposed persons. Please map your stakeholders. This story that you are doing is about the president. But who else? If you are able to take down a president or a governor or a senator, it might not be the senator that comes after you. It might be other people who benefit from having the senator in a seat, that you have now become a threat to their lives. So please do your PEPS analysis, politically exposed person. When I started this career in 2005, my mentor and leader, Mr. Dapolo Yomi, he told me something that I would love to share. And I know that time is fast running out. He told me that, I used to say that I don't like reading, those gossip magazines, City People, Event magazine. But, he now highlighted for me that, that is part of, the gold mine for understanding politically exposed persons. Because if you did not know that, let me make an example. Was it Ribadu and Atiku's children that got married? Yes. Is that so? Anybody can unmute and either confirm or there was a marriage, a very big marriage between, I think, Ribadu's child and someone in politics. I think it was Atiku. Who knows? If you know, you can just Nuruddin, is anybody chatting or saying anything? Because I can't see the chats. Anyway, there was a huge I can't hear you, Nuruddin.
Okay, so we don't have that on the group yet.
Okay. I'll confirm before, maybe by tomorrow, because I still have 2 sessions tomorrow. So there was a huge, so if you don't know, for instance, you don't know the other connections that your story is pulling. It is at those social events that you get to know how close. Maybe you now see people who are doing their jobs because it's their job. You understand? The Senate, the person who is an opposition leader has a job to oppose. The person who is an incumbent has a job to look good. But those are their jobs. But it doesn't mean that they are not friends. It doesn't mean that they don't have association. So you have to do your stakeholders mapping so that you know who gains or who loses if you publish. And then environmental and cultural awareness. Some of these trainings that we have packed into 1 hour, you know that those of you that may have attended our physical trainings, this is a 3-day training. So I would have had 2 hours or 3 hours to take this session. So we are pushing a lot of things into this short time because environmental and cultural awareness alone can stand alone as a training. If you don't speak the language, do you have somebody who speaks the language? Do you know how they dress where you are going? Because those things, there are communities that the moment you enter, people spot you as a stranger and you become at risk. As you enter, people know that this person is not part of us just by your dressing, just by your mannerisms, just by your greeting or the way you do not greet. So please, cultural awareness, power dynamics awareness is very, very important. I say here that, institutions can do more. I'm going to move on because of my time. You can always read more about institutions. Part of what institutions can do is to have get out plans for your reporter. If you're an editor and you're sending a reporter to do a story, have a get out plan. If the story becomes dangerous and the community people, sometimes it's not government that is after you, it's the community people themselves that you are affecting something they are collaboratively corrupt about, because communities can be corrupt. I did investigation on Niger Delta, and I found out so many communities that are corrupt, or Niger Delta Development Commission, and it had to do with many Niger Delta communities. And so many communities are corrupt as a collective. They are corrupt because they are gaining something together. Money gets into somebody's account. So when you get there and you think you went to save them, actually you're a threat, or you're a threat to the leaders of that community. So you have to be culturally aware, and you have to have your get out plan, somebody who can get you out of the place. I also speak here about gender and intersectionality of safety. Women, younger people, like Pelumi, freelancers, people who have cultural and language barriers. So you can be somebody who has done all of your risk assessments, but your peculiarity, because you are a female, can heighten your susceptibility to risk. You might freelancer, you don't have any organizational cover. It can heighten your risk. So that's what I say there. Let's move on quickly. So how do you build a safety culture from awareness to action? Please, the first thing is that you must take personal responsibility for your own safety. You cannot outsource your safety. I grew up with a father who served in the police for a while. And so I grew up extremely safety conscious. If I get into a space, a new place, there are things that you just look at. As children, there were things that I was knocked for, not noticing. So they're just personal awareness. Why is this car following me? Why is this person seated at the entrance? Why, this place is normally crowded. Why is it deserted? There should be activity in this place. Just awareness. Just take conscious responsibility for your own safety. So if there's no organization doing the protocols for you, please do the protocols by yourself. And if you are leading a newsroom, make it a part of the culture. Please speak about your challenges. I'm burning out. I don't feel good. I'm having bad dreams. Speak to somebody, if not just a therapist. Speak to family members, speak to friends. The fact that you can speak about it is important. Build support system. Report threats. We found out that in many conversations and convenings that we have led at the WSIJ, we find out that, and I also have done, safety of journalists is one of my areas of focus as a leader in journalism. And I've done researches personally on safety issues. And one of the things that are recurrent in many conversations, research, is that a lot of times journalists don't report threats. During the 2023 election, I have a research on safety of journalists during 2023 elections. And that body of work told me that many journalists, when you ask them, so they'll say, I was harassed. When you ask them, did you report it? They'll say, I just told my editor, or I just told the guy behind. Why should I tell anybody? Who cares? Please report threats. It might be what saves you, because you have a record that that person is threatening you. Report threat. Then model leadership as a safe practice. Model safety as a practice. So what does safety culture look like? WSID, before you send this slide, I would like to make some adjustments on this particular slide, please. So please don't send this particular slide, because there are things that are like headings that are not showing as headings. So what does safety culture look like? Before you do a story, do your risk assessment. During the story, do check-ins, do escalation. After the story, please debrief. And also check yourself. What did WSID learn for many years of doing this work? Across trainings, engagement, journalists often focus on publication plans. They neglect their safety plan. I make an example quickly of Yinka Adeparusi, late Yinka Adeparusi. He was a photojournalist, and he did a collaborative story project with us. I led that work. we were doing photo stories. We were doing investigations on resource governance, particularly oil and gas. And we wanted photo story on the environmental decay in the Niger Delta. And before we went to the field, we did debrief with the investigative reporters, the journalists. You are going to the field, so tell us, what are you going to do? Just trying to understand what they are going to do. At WSID, I think I'll take 5 minutes from my Q&A time. Please help me to add 5 minutes. So we did a debrief, and Yinka Adekparosi, when he was telling the story of how he was going to do, he was a photojournalist, remember, and he was going to Niger Delta to cover environmental hazards and all of that, exposures to the people. And we asked him, how are you going to do this story? He said, well, I'll take a flight. When I take the flight, I'll land at so-so states. When I get there, I will take transportation to the community and I'll start taking picture. And right there, one of the colleagues, I remember very, very vividly this particular instance I'm sharing with you. It happened in our office when we were at Ikeja. And one of his colleagues there said, you are dead. The person it was reflex. The person just said, you are dead. And why was the person saying that? That the Niger Delta community is not a community you just appear to as a photojournalist with a camera and you start taking pictures. He said, you are dead. And we had to then walk through, how do we make Yinka Adekparosi safe? And we had to give him a non-governmental organization that he went straight to visit first, and they were the ones that took him into those communities. And those pictures are some of the best pictures of the coverage of the hazards of, Niger Delta community dwellers face because of, the exposures that, all of us enjoy oil and its benefits, but some people are dying. Just making that example. Okay, what's my closing reflection? I can't see my 5 minutes. Please help me to hide it. My closing reflections is, you have to ask yourself, what does it cost me when I ignore safety? What becomes possible when I prioritize safety? Because investigative journalism survives when you do. So when you look at all of other experiences, Bolanle Olabinto is a reporter with the cable. She was harassed, when she went to cover the last elections, 2023 elections. Daphne Galizia, some of you might not know her. She's a Maltese reporter who was killed for our story. I've talked about Marisa, I've talked about Daniel, I've talked about Anna earlier. We held a meeting in WSIJ office about 2 weeks ago where we brought Richard Akionla to speak to journalists about, things around, the safety of journalists, civic space, and all of that. And we asked journalists, how does the environment feel? And many of them used these words: hushed, censored, caged, silenced, killed. And one lesson that we always see is that when safety systems fail, journalism itself becomes fragile. Because right now, you can just see there's a sense of fear. Like I said, people in street balance, people are giving themselves brain. People are saying, don't let me go and cover that story. You are going to, even those of us that are doing capacity development, are editing stories, doing strategy for the ecosystem of investigative reporting for journalism. There are places, for instance, WSIJ cannot go and train right now because we cannot guarantee the safety of ourselves or the reporters that we are going to train. And we don't want anybody to get killed on our account. We'll have fiduciary responsibilities if we do that. So we are living in an era that is censored, and that makes our journalism fragile. That makes our democracy fragile. That makes that overarching public interest that all of us say that we do journalism for. It makes it sometimes difficult, in some cases impossible. So that is why, we must think about it. What's my final message? My final message to you is a quote from Henry Anatole Grunwald. He's late now. He was the managing editor of Time magazine and editor-in-chief of the magazine at the time. And he said journalism can never be silent. Journalism does not, we don't have the capacity to be silent. But that is its greatest virtue and its greatest fault. The fact that we are not silent is the reason people are safe. But the fact that we are not silent is also the reason we are unsafe. And we have to be able to manage this balance. We have to be able to care for this balance. In some other slides that I have, I speak about no story is worth your life. But sometimes you don't know the story that takes your life. Just like you don't know the incident as a human being that takes your life. So please, let's work, that balance. I just show you here a collage of, our journey as an organization, just recent journey, because this journey started in 2005, like I highlighted, and I will highlight as I close. Our journey, I didn't caption because it's just a collage, but these are conferences that we've held. These are training, in-depth training that we've held. These are collaborations that we've done even with state actors like the National Security Advisors Office. These are publications and researches, knowledge bodies that we are building so that we can help journalists to be safer. These are conversations that we brought. We brought journalism leader, you see Juliana Francis, David Ajikobi there, conversing around, the safety of journalists. And of course, this particular training that we're doing is also about safety. Why are we doing this? It is because threat to safety of journalists is existential, not just to the journalists, not just to the media organization. Remember, many media organizations have shut down because of SLAP, not just to the media organization, but it is existential to society's survival, society's development, our humanity's development. It is existential. So thank you very much for your time. The WSID story continues. We hope that after in our new decade, we keep doing better as an organization. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Muturayo, for that wonderful session. And just like what you said, journalism can never be silenced, and that is why we're having this conversation. And you've walked us through how we can build awareness for this safety as an investigative journalist. So thank you for that wonderful session. Now, what next is let us have the participants comment their question. You can drop that in the chat box so that we can have that with the facilitator. Yeah, let's do that. We have 10 minutes for that. Yeah, you can drop your question in the chat box. Or if you want to speak to the speaker, you can just raise up your hand and let us see. But you just make it brief, question so that others can also have time for their question as well. Let's do that within 10 minutes.
Okay, if you want to ask a question, you can actually raise your virtual hand. If I see it, I will call you. Otherwise, there are also questions. People have put questions in the chat, so Nurudi, we can start with that.
All right.
Okay, I see. Read one. I've read the question. It says that how long would investigative journalists reasonably remain concerned about their personal safety after publishing a sensitive story? For example, I still sometimes worry about stories I reported 3 years ago and even one from last year. How do we assess it when a risk has truly reduced or ended? Thankfully, my training is just a first of, I think we have about 6 or more sessions, and I assure you, all of the resource persons were people who we know what we are talking about. We've experienced the things that we're talking about. See, when Yusuf Ali would speak later today from The Nation, he's a veteran. Many of you would know him. And for those of you who do not know him, you'll meet him later today. He tells us that he keeps files of stories from 20 years past. And it's unfortunate, but it's the reality. It's the reality. It keeps files, it keeps documentation because you don't know what happens. It might also be that there's a need to do a follow-up story. And those files help you not to start from zero. Because one of the things we noticed for our award, for instance, is that when it's time for our award, many journalists don't have their own stories. They are depending on their media organization to give them stories. But you did the great story, but you did not document it. So documentation is not as strong suit as a community, as a society. But documentation must be your strong suit if you are an investigative reporter. And you must back up those documentation. You must back up those documentation. So I would say always be safety conscious. Just make safety consciousness a part of you. Like I was saying about entering hotels, like when you enter an hotel room and there's an adjoining door, the door is not leading outside, it's just a door on the wall. Usually I would tell the hotel to change my room, or I would let them know. I'll ask them about that door. That door, where does it lead to? Is it locked? Am I safe? So that it is documented that I made inquiries about the adjoining room door. But usually I will not sleep in that room because where does the adjoining door lead? Sometimes the mirror in your hotel room is not a mirror, is a glass that another person can see through. And there are tests. Like I said, this is just a 1 hour training. I could break down all of the things that are in my slides. I could break them down into a whole, we can do the training every day for at least 14 days. So because, for instance, recognizing, reflective mirrors that are not real mirrors. They are mirror to you, but it is a view for somebody else. There is a technique to it. So all of those things, WSI getting perhaps, safety awareness, these things I'm talking about, just be writing them down as individual cultural consciousness. It can be an individual model for a training so that we can train people. The pouch, honestly, I have the pouch. Maybe we'll Google it and see. I was given, and I remember now that it was at Stanford that I was given. I was given, but I do not know where they got it from. I still have the pouch. So it will be available, but I mean, we'll search and we can share the information, but I don't know where it was gotten from. But the people in the circle for safety and all of that, they know all of those things. For instance, and many of you might have this, many of us have camcorders on our laptops. So on my laptop, I have a camcorder cover. So if I'm not doing a video meeting, that camcorder will be closed because it can be used for surveillance. You are opening your laptop regularly, but somebody has implanted something that makes them see every time that camcorder is open. So if I'm not doing a presentation, my camcorder is closed. And, there are other safety tips that, you would know, but please keep checking, please keep being safe, keep being conscious that your environment has changed. Somebody was talking about, they brought I think a retired state security service officer for a training. And the person was telling them that the person was telling a particular journalist in the room. And the person who told me this account said they all had goose pimples on their body when the person was telling that journalist how he or she was being tracked while the person was doing a story. And what did they say? They told the person that something seller, like all of these people who are mobile markets, like the person selling fruits or the person selling recharge cards, and then they are pushing a wheelbarrow to sell it. So that person just appeared on the person's streets. And nobody questioned, why are you selling something on my streets? Who gave you permission to be selling here? Meanwhile, this person was a security operative gathering information about the journalists. So just notice what is changing in your environment. Security people and other journalists will tell you, don't take the same place to your house. Some of those things, I'm conscious, but you also have to be conscious not to become paranoid. Because otherwise, You will not be able to sleep. You're like, who's at the window? Who just walked past? This the way this person has tied this gele. Is there something under it? You just become paranoid. So you have to also be careful not to become paranoid, of course, but
All right.
just be conscious. I'm answering
All
the
right.
other questions. Don't
Okay.
worry.
So
Um,
we have three more questions so that we can.
okay. Phone pouch. I've answered that.
Yeah,
Um,
we have one from Awas at ABC. Good morning, WSAIJ. It's a great session. Thank you, ma'am. What's your advice for a journalist who has done a powerful story, but due to threat, is doubting and being skeptical about doing a follow-up?
number one is that you have to acknowledge that that is only human. Doesn't make you bad. It is human to be skeptical after you have been burnt. So I think also in this profession, we don't give ourselves enough grace. We don't give ourselves enough. We just say, you're an investigative journalist. It's a tough profession, we know, but it's human. But why don't you walk through your threat with your line editor or a mentor, somebody who knows the field, what you feel threatened about, and have a conversation and see what it is your follow-up story was, and take more security measures this time. And then what is the overarching public interest? Am I doing this just for adrenaline, or is this so important to the public that you can release a story and give it to, for instance, another organization to publish so that you feel safer? There was a story WSID was supporting that I was really, really, Juliana is here. She knows about the story. I wanted the journalist to give the story to somebody else because she lived in the community where the story was happening. Herself and her family lived there. And I was just, up till now, I'm still worried. I'm still concerned about our safety. And it was a story about land. And people kill for property. People kill for property. It can even be just the land grabbers. It can be somebody who just benefits, just something small that is not as big as the owners that, gets touched. So be careful. What bothers me these days is safety of journalists and amidst escalation. One might be kidnapped. Yes, Juliana, you are right. So I just said it, WSIJ, there are places that we have not gone to. I've gone to Enugu to train journalists before. I've gone to Port Harcourt to train journalists before. But believe you me, I'm not going this time. Somebody invited me to where last year. And she spent a lot of time convincing me that, it's not one of the states that were affected. I told her Zoom is the only thing I can do. So there are also external threats that we're facing now as Nigerians. If you are in the US, there are threats that you are facing because you are US, because there are guns. A crazy person can just come and shoot everybody dead. You understand? They kill the person, but the person has killed 30 people. So you have to, yes, we have to look at it. See, there's an investigation that I did. It's perhaps the biggest event because I don't do investigations regularly. I do it once in a while, or mostly I'm collaborating as editor, and it's only the reporter's name that people know. But there's an investigation that I did, and I've made this example many times in Niger Delta. I did not leave Lagos, and kidnapping was not even high like that. This is something I did more than 7 or 6 years, more than 7 years ago. I did not leave Lagos. Why? I'm useless in the Niger Delta. I don't speak language. I don't know streets, this thing. I'm not a security officer. So I used on-ground local journalists. All I did was map my strategy and follow up on them, tell them how I want my pictures taken. I want the color of sand. I want background landmarks. So I just did my strategy document well. A lot of times journalists don't plan. If you plan more, so if you don't want to go to the area, please, if it's people are being kidnapped, my time is up. So thank you let me take the last one. Thank you for the airline.
Last
You talked
question.
about
Yeah.
preparation. So, yes, I need to confine a trusted. How do you manage the ones that sell out? If the person sells out, then the person is not trusted. So that's straightforward. If somebody sells out once, see, when people tell you who they are, please believe them. When people tell you that you put something in their hands, they betray your trust. Don't rationalize it when your safety is concerned. Just, you can be greeting good morning, good evening, how is the weather, that general story about Tinubu going to another country, those routine news story, be doing it with them. But when it's a story that has to do with your life, please don't share with that person because they've told you that they are not safe. Why do you then put your safety in their hands? So that's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, thank you so much for your time. And that is a really wonderful session. And a lot of things have been said about the security safety. You've led us to this conversation. And the next facilitator will also try to build on that so that we can look at the other safety part of journalism. And also, just like what you said earlier, the legal part where Yusuf Ali will be taking, the participant on so that they can be able to know how to defend, their story, the legal aspect of it. So thank you so much for your time. And that is a wonderful session, I believe. It is time to have the second facilitator. So thank you so much, Muturayo, for your session. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, so moving on for the next, moving on, we have Idris Akimbajo that will take us the second session. Do we have Idris in the room? All right. If we still have Mutura in the room, can we if you have another question while we wait for our second facilitator, Idris Akimbajo, the managing editor of Premium Times? Hello, do we still have questions while we wait for our second facilitator for the day?
So maybe I'll just emphasize as we wait. If you have questions, please go ahead and ask. Or maybe I'll just emphasize as we wait for the issue of institutions. Let me see, institutions actually taking some responsibility for the safety of journalists that work with them. I know that there are leaders in the room and there are people. So I'm going to go back to, there's a slide that I skip. I'll just go back to it anytime. And I'm sure very shortly that Idris comes, he will take over. I had this slide that I had shown, but I skipped because of time. Institutional responsibility to safety. A lot of times, those of us that are already leaders, and those of us who aspire to be leaders, because you see, it's easy to criticize the leader when you are the follower. But what kind of leader are you going to be when you are in charge? Often people who only criticize, they make terrible leaders. If you are somebody who is going to be a great leader, you need to be a follower who does not just criticize, but always comes up with solutions and always, supports the system. But what we have seen is that institutions can do better in terms of ensuring the safety of journalists. During
All right.
COVID-19,
Sorry,
let me finish my thoughts, please.
Okay.
During COVID-19, many organizations did not even offer, the safety kits to the reporters they sent out to cover, COVID-19. WSIJ sent kits to many organizations. So we just find that in terms of, legal support, and then especially when you are facing a suit, many organizations, they leave you out in the open to do it by yourself. So please, those of us that are editors, publishers, leaders of organizations, this is a high-level meeting. And those of us who are potential leaders, let us take care of, as an institution, let us do better with the safety of the reporters, especially the young ones, the small organizations who are recruiting, freshers, people young out of school. Take time to train them in-house, take time to take them through, steps, so that they can be better. Let us take care of the safety of the journalists of the field. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Muturai, for your time. Now we have our second facilitator on board. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we now move to the second session with the topic, the journalist safety playbook, staying safe on the field. And in this session, the participants will be learning about the practical guidance, strategy, and tools, with actionable steps for staying safe and also conducting, investigative stories. It is my pleasure to introduce our second facilitator, Mr. Idris Akimbajo. So Idris Akimbajo leads editorial operation of Premium Times, one of Nigeria's foremost digital news platform, where it drives investigative reporting and public interest journalism. An award-winning journalist with extensive newsroom experience, he specializes in accountability reporting, editorial leadership, and investigative storytelling. His career, distinguished by national and international recognition, provides practical perspective, on navigating complex reporting environments while upholding journalistic integrity, public trust, and professional excellence. Mr. Idris Akimbajo, you have the floor.
Thank you very
Hello, can you
much.
hear me, Mr. Idris?
Yes, I can hear you
Yeah, good
clearly.
morning.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Good morning.
I can. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, when you were introducing me, I was wondering if I was the one you were making reference to with the whole eulogy and description. So I had to reflect, say, am I sure that it's me that is being introduced like this? Uh, anyway, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this to share my experience with colleagues on an
Mr.
issue.
Idris, sorry for cutting in. So please, can we can't see your face. Can you please turn on your video?
Yeah,
If that
the
is fine.
network is not that
Yeah.
strong, so I'm trying to manage. I'm trying
Oh,
to make sure that the video does not disrupt the network. I'm going to show my slides now, so that should be fine.
all right, all right. Because we want the participant to
Yeah.
have a fit to the face. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, there's some background noise. Hello? Can
Hello,
you hear me,
yeah,
please?
we can hear you, Mr. Idris.
Okay, all right, all right. So I said, thank you for inviting me to be part of this to share my experience and little knowledge with fellow journalists on an issue that affects all of us.
We are still waiting for your slide to come up.
Yeah, I'm going to display it. I'm trying to do that actually. Just give me a second, please.
All right. Yeah, we can see your slide now. Hello, Mr. Idris.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So can you see my slide now?
Yes, we can see. Yeah,
All
security
right.
and versus safety. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a topic that concerns all of us, especially in our part of the world, perhaps globally. Everywhere journalists operate, they face some form of challenges to their safety or security. The gravity of such safety risks or security risks vary from country to country. And that's organizations like the CPJ, Freedom House, the Shenka Center in Nigeria, the CJID, MRA, and others try to do some form of monitoring of the threats facing journalists and how they can be dealt with. And for some of those global organizations, they try to do some global ranking to show the severity of the threats and how they are changing across years. Meaning it's not a peculiar problem that's in Nigeria, that journalists face safety issues in Nigeria. It's really, in a way, a global problem. It's just that the severity of such problems vary from country to country depending on several factors, such as how deep the democracy is and how open the society is generally. So I think it's a very important topic, and I'm glad that the Shenka Center has asked me to be part of it. Uh, my own first thought on this is that even though security and safety are used interchangeably, there are language scholars who say there are inherent differences in them. Generally, security is considered protection against external threats, while safety is considered the feeling, perception of protection against internal threats, largely internal threats. Security is largely physical, while safety is largely emotional. So it's about feeling safe. It's not about whether the reality is different. Safety, in terms of language, is considered more of a feeling or an emotional state. Security is more of protection against deliberate threats, visible threats, while safety is more of unintentional threats. So if for the purpose of this discussion, we adopt the general meme, which is to use those terms interchangeably, safety and security, even though, as I mentioned, language experts say they can mean different things, but within the context of what journalists face, one can argue that they are arguably the same thing. Then why should we be worried about it, especially with the topic that Shenga Center wants us to focus on, which is when we go on the field, what kind of security threats do we face, and how do we tackle them? So, of course, we go to the field because we want to conduct interviews, because we want to locate places that are relevant to stories we want to tell, because we want to find witnesses, survivors, because we want to verify information we have gathered earlier using different techniques. Basically, because we want to do reporting, proper reporting. And for me, one of the interesting things that I see in the newsroom, at least in modern journalism, with the continuous advancement of technology, that many journalists are reluctant to go to the field anymore. We just stay on our desktop, gather information from social media, make a few calls, and the story is ready. For basic stories, that works. But for any thorough investigation, that would not work. And the Shenga Center is more concerned about investigations, I believe. And so that's why they are concerned about what we face when we go to the field. And also because going to the field is one of those things that AI would never help you do. So that in this AI age where AI can basically help you write news stories, rewrite press statements, construct sentences, write paragraphs, one of the things it won't help you do is to go to the field, identify the right sources you want to talk to, ask them the right questions, and so on. AI would not be able to help us do that. So good reporters must continue to, essentially, in my view, go to the field to do extensive reporting, especially when they are doing investigations. Holistic security is usually in three ways: physical, digital, psychosocial. But the one that we'll discuss in the next 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes, is the physical one, physical security. And I argue that for us as journalists, to achieve physical security when we are on the field, we just basically need to adopt a tool that no other profession, arguably no other profession, uses as well as journalists, which is our 5 Ws and H. I mean, you can argue that good fiction writers also pay attention to the 5 Ws and H. You can make that argument. But generally, the people who pay attention to it most are journalists. Because by the basis of our profession, we know that every story, and we are storytellers, we just tell true stories, right? Every story must contain those elements, the 5 W's and H. So you can argue that those are like the bedrocks of any good journalism. And to ensure fiscal security, I argue that we just need to adopt these same 5 W's and H to ourselves. So we adopt those same 5 W's and H that must be present in any good story, and then we adopt it to enhance our security. The first W, who? We ask ourselves, who may want to harm us? Who may be those that want to collaborate with those who want to harm us? When this harm is coming, who are those that can assist us at the point of danger? So if we address that who, those three questions with the who, we've taken a step to ensure that we are safe or secure. Then what? What can be harmed or damaged? What can be done to us? What can be done to others? What can be done to our tools and equipment? And then what can we do to prevent that attack? Where are they likely to carry out these attacks? When these attacks are carried out, where can I go to feel safe? Where can I place my tools to avoid damage during these attacks? Then the when. When are these traducers likely to carry out these attacks? When will I be aware of the attack? When can help come when the attack is launched? Why would anyone want to attack me? Why would anyone want to attack my equipment? And then for the H, how can I prevent this attack? How can I save myself, others, and my equipment during the attack? I believe that fundamentally, to guarantee security when we are on the field, we all just need to be able to answer all these questions. But how do we answer them, and at what points do we answer them? That raises the question, at what stage do we plan against threats? At what stage do we plan against threats? For me, I think the first is that we must plan against threats during our pitch presentation. And that's why I encourage story funders like the Shrinker Center and the rest to include security threat assessment in their pitch templates. Because even while pitching stories, journalists must reflect on the threats they are likely to face during the pitch presentation. That's by my own theory. The second is that after our pitch is approved, but before we go to the field, we must have these assessments and present these questions and answer them. After the pitch is approved, even if we do not consider or reflect on them during the pitching process, after the pitch is approved, we must, as journalists, reflect on these questions and see which answers you can provide. Then, of course, no matter how well your preparations are, no matter how good you have prepared, how well you've prepared before, during pitching, after pitching, before going to the field, when you're on the field, situations may still arise. So you can also make plans on the spot when those situations arise while you're on the field. So I think these are the three stages where we should start. We should reflect on our security situation as reporters. Now, in order to implement practical guides to implement these questions that are these theoretical questions I have raised about the 5 W's and H, And now it can guide us into feeling safe and also planning to ensure that we are secure on the field. There's a 4-step planning cycle that, to the best of my knowledge, was developed by the Premium Times publisher, Dakoloriomi, and we've tried to adopt it in our operations at Premium Times to the best of our abilities. I summarized into, in case we forget, ATRM. So it's just ATM with R before the M. So in terms of proper planning, if we adopt these ATRM principles, we will see that we would have essentially prevented any security risks to ourselves while on the field. The A is for assets. What do I mean by assets? Basically, who and what do we need to protect? So even before you go to the field, ask yourself, who and what do we need to protect? It could be yourself. First, you have to consider, okay, I'm going to the field. How do I protect myself? It could be your colleagues, perhaps your cameraman, perhaps your fixer, perhaps your co-reporter. How these assets can be targeted. So what are these assets that can be targeted? You as a reporter could be, as a journalist could be targeted. The personnel around you could be targeted. Staff members, even the ones that may not be journalists, maybe the staff bus driver and so on, your taxi driver can be targeted. Your equipment can be targeted. So your vehicles can be targeted. Your camera can be targeted. So the first thing when it comes to assets is to ask yourself, who and what can be targeted when I am on the field? And I think these 6 things largely cover for most of what we do as journalists while on the field. Our personnel that we are working with, ourselves, our staff members, our equipment, our vehicle, our camera. The next after the A is the R, or is the T, the threat. So after you have identified the assets that should be targeted or that could be targeted, next is what threat would these assets face? What kind of threat would these assets face? Essentially, if you reframe that, it can be who and what can cause harm, can cause damage to these assets that I have identified. It could be the police or state agents. Perhaps you are going to investigate how unarmed protesters were shot and killed in a community in Kaduna. Perhaps the state wants to cover up the matter. You should ask yourself, am I likely to face threat from state agents who don't want that story revealed? Who and what can cause harm? The first could be police or state agents, security agents generally. The second could be all categories of criminals. Both criminals that want to target your person to injure you, to kill you, or criminals that want to target your equipment, your staff members, all kinds of criminals. Many of us who practice in the southern part of the country know about the old Omonile scandal and Raisa, the area boys. There are places I believe it's still the same, but I remember when I was still a reporter in Lagos, there are places you go to before you conduct interviews. You have to have discussed properly with the area boys there before they see you moving around asking questions. If not, you'll be putting yourself at risk. So criminals can be a major threat. Those of us who have covered elections before also know that criminals can be people who are interested in covering up atrocities that we want to expose as investigative journalists. So are the threats likely to come from criminals? Sometimes the threats can come from our own colleagues in the media. I'm sure some of us have that kind of example where your own colleagues are actually threats. Uh, uh, I remember a case of one of my former colleagues when she was covering an issue in Kogi State. It was an election, and she was there were only two journalists present when the atrocities were being committed. So we were doing live videos. She was essentially sending us the videos, and we're doing live updates of the crime and calling attention that something was happening here. And then all of a sudden, the question was, the people got to know that somebody was putting information online amongst the few people that were at that collision center. And who are journalists here? There's a journalist here and the rest. My colleague then, she did not identify herself as a journalist because she needed access to that place, so she didn't indicate. But basically, they made calls and to other media outlets that who are the media outlets that have presence here and some of our colleagues were almost going to essentially expose her. She had to essentially adopt one of the skills that we use to say, look for a safe place. She just walked that like if you're going to buy mineral, she was thirsty. And then from there, we got into a safe arena. So even our media colleagues can be threats to us when we are doing investigations. Some of us journalists who do undercover reporting know perhaps experience this more or know more about this. But yes, fellow journalists can actually be the threats to the assets we have identified. Organizations that don't want us to be expose what they are doing or their illicit activities can be threats to the assets we have identified. Politically exposed persons and their agents because they want to cover up atrocities, especially during elections or when you're trying to expose a top political office holder, whether it's about state projects not being constructed, about money for education not being well utilized. PEPs and their agents can actually be the threats to the assets we have identified. So we must identify who and what can cause us harm. These are some of the examples of these persons. I can do so. Next is the R, risks. So we've identified the assets. We've identified where the threat can come from, who and what can cause the threats. But risk, what can they actually do? So I know the asset they may want to target. I know where the threat is coming from, who is going to perpetrate this threat. But what can they actually do? Are they likely to want to manhandle me or physically assault me? Are they likely to want to shoot us to essentially make me leave the place, scare me, put my health in danger? They're likely to want to bomb the environment. Journalists have been killed in Gaza, in Lebanon, directly. Are they likely going to try to kidnap me? Are they likely going to make false accusations at me? That's the risk that is likely to happen. Are they likely going to defame me? We see a lot of that when investigative journalists are exposing an issue or doing a story. Then see politicians and their agents essentially trying to defame the journalist, saying he's working for A, she's working for B, they've collected money from Mr. A, they are being sponsored by Mrs. B, and so on. Is that a risk that we are likely to face? Are they likely to file lawsuits just to either stop us from publication or threaten us to not publish some in the future? So what are the specific risks that these assets we have identified, that these people we have identified can actually met out on us? What are the risks that we likely face? Then the last is the M. Now that we have identified the assets, the threats, and the risks, how can we mitigate all of this? How can we mitigate these threats from these persons that we have identified? What can we do? Sometimes the best is that even before you go to the field, identify safe locations in those areas. One of my colleagues just traveled to a south state for a reporting. Before he traveled, I was telling him, and I said, see, one of the first things you have to do is before you even go start to go ask questions in the community, first go to the community, identify your safe area. Don't interview anybody. Sometimes safe areas can just be the mosque in the community, can just be the church in the community, can just be the police station in the community. It's important that journalists identify safe areas in places where we are going to do field reporting, especially investigative reporting. How do we secure our belongings? Sometimes it's better not to go with your cameras. Sometimes it's better to go with hidden cameras. Sometimes it's better to go with a fixer who the community know and can trust. Can that be a way for us to help secure our belongings? Mark exit routes. This is very, very important. Before we go to any community or any building to interview people, ask yourself, what are the exit routes? If something happens there, how can I escape? Sometimes a building just has one access. There are no exit routes. But many times, communities, markets, public places have more than one access. That's why the Yorubas have a proverb that says, "Onokon Waja," literally meaning no market has just one entrance. We as journalists have to be conscious to know that whenever we are trying to interview people, especially for investigative interviews, we have mapped out exit routes just in case there is danger in that area, or we face any danger. Communication with colleagues, with superiors. It's important we do this often when we are on the field. It is very, very important. Some of us just go on the field and we don't communicate with anybody for weeks. We used to have a colleague like that. You will just not hear from him for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then he'll come back with a story. It will be a good story, but then we felt we can't continue like this. You are putting yourself and essentially the organization at risk when we don't know where you are, when nobody can, if something happens to you, how do we explain that? And we have these guidelines, you are not following them to ensure your own safety and security. Communicating with trusted colleagues and superiors is very, very important before we go to the field and also when we are on the field. Let us keep records and record important interviews. Keep records meticulously. Don't delete all records after you have published a story. You may not get sued on a story until a year, 2 years after. Keep records, I would even say for up to 5 years minimum. That's why now journalists should have not just online storage system, online drives and the rest, but have external drives where you just keep things. That 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte drives, and just label them appropriately. Story on Ifejiako, all the files, put it in a folder, put it on that drive. It's in the cloud, but it's also safely stored in an external drive, just in case in 2-3 years time somebody claimed they did not talk to you. So you say, I have all the records, I have my records. Let's keep records meticulously, and let's record important interviews that we use for our story. To mitigate lapse, the best way is just that strategic lawsuit against public participation. The best way is just to ensure accuracy. We must ensure that we strive to achieve accuracy in our storytelling. And we have to be careful about biases. Sometimes I read a good story by a fairly good investigative story a few days ago by a good platform. And the headline was totally different from the story. The headline showed extreme bias. But the story itself was rich with facts. We must strive for accuracy in both headline, and so such a story it's easy for the accusers to just say, see this headline they are giving to it. How does it relate to this? That just shows their bias. Just because that headline was not accurate, it did not accurately reflect what the story was trying to tell. We must strive for accuracy. And we all know that accuracy is one of the fundamental ethics in our profession. So it's not as if we are doing anybody a favor by being accurate. It's because even our own ethical expectation is that we should strive for accuracy. We should also network to mitigate disaster. We must network among ourselves. I remember during one election coverage, when one of our reporters in, I think it was Plateau or Benue, I can't remember, one of those north central states, it was recording illegality being perpetrated by party agents there. And they got to know that it was recorded, even though he was trying to be very, very discreet about it. And they grabbed him, put him into a vehicle, and they were driving him away. It was a journalist from another media house, I won't mention the media house, who called me and said, Editor, they just picked your reporter. This guy, they just picked him now in my front. We were there together. I saw that he was recording, but me too, I was there, but they just carried him now. They put him in the car. I don't know where they're taking him to. But he was able to do that because while they were on the field together, they were networking, they were working together. They didn't see themselves as adversaries. They saw themselves as colleagues working for different media houses, but trying to achieve the same purpose. And so any harm done to one, the other was concerned about it. And because he immediately called us, we were able to activate the defense mechanisms we had put in place to ensure the reporter's release. So networking is a very good way to mitigate disaster. Security planning cycle. The first thing that we must know that no matter how much effort we put to eliminate risk cannot be eliminated. That's why journalists can still be kidnapped, journalists can still be killed, journalists can still be arrested, even after putting all these plans in place. But we can significantly reduce these risks and these threats if we put these plans in place. We can significantly reduce it. The fact that all these things we've said, one may look at it and say, this planning operation, that's the whole task on its own. No, it's not. It may not take you more than a day to answer all these questions that you need to answer to be ensured that you've put in place a proper security framework. But then it's good to have it in place so that when those risks occur, before they occur, you can prepare yourself for them and also identify ways to mitigate them. And once we have done this properly, we not only identify every threat and risk that you can face, but we have also identified and prepared for all steps you can take to mitigate these threats. If we implement this planning cycle, these 4 steps, ATRM principle, we will see that it is an effective tool that we can use to prevent insecurity from affecting journalists in the course of our work. However, despite putting all of this in place, we must not discount situational awareness. Because, like I said earlier, no matter how much plan you have put in place, things can still come up while you are on the field. You must be situationally aware to be able to make the right decision at each point. So even if your manual you have prepared says, always one question I always get asked while preparing journalists to go for election coverage is, should I always identify myself as a journalist when I'm going to go there any polling unit? And my answer is always this: you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. I will be there at present to help you tell you that in this place, in this place, don't wear. But with the training I have given, we've done, you should be able to know that in this place, the best is for me to wear and identify myself. But in this place, if I dare wear it, I'll either not get any information or I'll be harassed and attacked. So situational awareness, ability to make a minute-by-minute risk assessment and take the right decision is very, very important for a good journalist. And that's why we as editors always pay attention to identifying journalists that they can send to potentially risky environments, because it just shows that, okay, this one will be able to take a quick decision when they feel there's trouble. This one, let her just be, or let him just be in the office. It's better. He can do better from the office. On the field, you can't trust his judgment or when issues happen very quickly. So editors have to be able to make those kind of judgments. Threat modeling, it helps us to clearly identify our potential adversaries, what likely they would be interested in getting out of us, and what would happen if they get what they want from us. So the best way to just do this threat modeling is to ask ourselves these questions, these summarized questions. I've mentioned them before, but in summary, and provide specific answers to them. The first, who would be the most likely person to target me? That's the T you mentioned when we talk about the ATRM. Who would be the most likely person to target me? How much resources would this person have, or would they be willing to dedicate to target me? How much resources? If it's a state government, of course, you know that then their resources are relatively is unlimited compared to what you have. If it's just a street tout, you know what kind of resources they would have and so on. So how much money, time, and skill would this person have or will be willing to dedicate to target me? What would these people, these persons, likely want from me? Is it money? Is it information? Is it access to my sources and so on? What would they most likely want from me? And then what would happen to me if they were successful? So this is about threat to self now. Who would want to target me? How much resources would they be willing to devote to target me? What would they most likely want from me? What would happen if they got what they wanted? Major, I'll round off now. Thank you. Major protection for Nigerian journalists: independence. Let's be independent. Let's be professional, factual, accurate. Let's keep records, and let's always do our threat assessment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akimbajo, for that wonderful session. And a lot has been said, and I'm very sure that our participants are also taking note and is practical, in real sense. And these are what they also experience day in, day out when they are doing their investigative stories. So we now open the floor for the Q&A session for this conversation. So we can easily drop our comment or question in the chat box. We also want to speak. You can raise up your hand, the virtual hand, so that we can call you. And just please make it brief and short. Yeah, thank you. So if you have your question, this is time to ask. A lot has been said about the safety, the procedure, what you have to do before you go to the field. Even while you are carrying out the stories, you are doing your interviews. What are the things you just have to be very mindful of? So a lot has been said. So let's hear from you. Let's have your questions, your clarifications, and any other thing you want to ask our facilitator. Thank you. So while we are waiting for our questions, you can easily, check the chat box and follow us on all our social media platforms. It is very, very important so that you can get updates, from the center in terms of opportunities, in terms of trainings and other things. You will be able to get that the first-hand information on our social media platform and also on our website as well. So try to do that. Follow us on all our social media platforms on Facebook, on Twitter, now X, LinkedIn as well. These are where you can get our first-hand updates, to able to know what is going on or what are the things you can also benefit, from the center. So we are waiting for our questions. Okay, from Mary. Yeah, Mary, you have a question. Please go ahead. Kindly unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay.
All right.
Good morning, all.
Good.
I sincerely want to appreciate this lecture we've had this morning. My first question is like when Madam spoke, she talked about safety when you go out, the languages and all. I just want to ask, when media have issues, does Wole Soyinka come in? Aside from Wole Soyinka, even our activists, because I remember the young guy that was battered in General Hospital in Lasuth. It was obvious, it was seen all over. Even NUJ saw it. I discovered that he kept going to court alone, and I called him one day that how far have you gone about this issue? Because I am interested. And he said, members of NUJs, even some activists are asking him to drop the story. I felt so bad. I had an issue too with the police. It was opened where I was battered in gender because I was doing my work. Thank God I had to. God gave me that wisdom. I went alone, but I later pretended not to be alone because I parked my car outside in the night and I kept shouting, wait for me, don't go. Mr. Olo, wait for me. I kept calling Mr. Olo's name. So they thought I came with somebody. That was how I escaped. My eyes were swollen. We went to the CP and I'm happy. Not this present CP. He handled it so well. So my question is, when medias have issues, do you people come out for them? That guy is just alone now. For my own case, my director went with me. That was why the police took it off. So my question is, do they really come out to assist?
All right. That is well noted. Mr. Kimajo, should we have, because we have more questions, can we have them or we be treating them one after the other because of time?
It's up to you, sir. Anyone you choose, it's okay.
Okay, you can address that.
Yeah, I think if I say that everybody supports journalists who are assaulted in the course of their work, I'll be lying. If I also say that nobody supports journalists who are assaulted in the course of their work, I'll also be lying. What I would say is that there are organizations that are committed to the safety and rights of journalists. So it is our duty as journalists to make these organizations aware of these cases. The Shrinker Center, the MRA, the CJID, when those issues happen, even if the journalists themselves who are involved in the case don't call the attention of these organizations to it, we as other journalists, we can continue to contribute our quota by writing stories. One of the things that always amazes me, not just me, those who understand Nigerian journalism very well, is the fact that we are always reluctant to tell our own stories. The passion with which we tell other people's stories, we hardly put that same passion into telling our own stories. So what I always challenge my own reporters is, you do your own part first before you see others are not doing their part. So Organization A is not doing anything to support journalist. Organization B, you as a journalist first, as a parent guys, what are you doing to support journalists? The first thing you have to do is that every time the matter is coming up in court, make sure you write a pre-court story and a post-court story. I think do your own part first. Okay, this journalist is going to court today. The story, journalists continue trial of like this continue. After the judge adjourns trial, journalist demands justice, continues to demand justice. Narrate what has happened in the court, call these organizations that are concerned about the rights of journalists to get voices to it, enrich the story, make sure that the matter continues to be in public space. So if each of us, let's assume we are just 10 of us in this call now, do that whenever we see that journalists are assaulted. Imagine the global attention, the national attention such matters will get. And it will force those people like the who don't want to act when they see that constantly all media houses are independently writing different stories about the same issue, about journalists, and they are being called out to it. But one of the things I always say that the easiest thing to do as a Nigerian is to just blame everybody else. But we as an individual. So anytime I tell my colleagues, this is not clean. Why are we not covering this report? Journalists matter. We were not made aware of it. Now you go and you see that by the time all of us do that independently, individually, all issues that affect Nigerian journalists will be in public domain. So I don't think organizations are not interested. I think sometimes they are not aware of it. Sometimes they have limited resources. But we as individual journalists, individual reporters, individual editors, if we play our own part very well, we see that all our issues become national issues. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Akimbajo. So we have a question from Ridwan Adiola Yusuf. Mr. Akimbajo, you mentioned that journalists should keep records and document conversation as part of staying safe. Could you please expatiate on this specifically? What kind of record should be kept? How should they be stored securely, even after decades, that you can still go back to it? Expatiate, please. That is coming from Ridwan Adiola.
Okay, so I merged two things here: record keeping and recording interviews or conversations. So I think this question is about record keeping.
Yes,
all
yes.
the records that we use for all the records used for a story, we need to first, it could be videos that we made, it could be audio interviews that we recorded. When you're on the field, you interview the market woman, you interview the fisherman, you interview the traditional ruler of the community, you interview the pastor of the church, whoever you interview, all this record. You may have interviewed somebody for 30 minutes, but you only took one sentence that was relevant to your story. You may have interviewed the victim for 1 hour, but you only took 2 sentences that were relevant for the story, or your editor cut out the remaining part. All those interviews that you've had, some of them might be physical. Maybe you just took notes, they didn't allow you to record. Most of them will be digital, electronic. Digitize all of them, save them, create a folder, call the folder Trip to Ibadan for story on this, or Trip to Ibadan 2026. That folder, save it on a Google Drive or a Dropbox, but also I always encourage your journalists, make sure you have an external hard drive, physical external hard drive. That same folder, perhaps it's going to be 50 megabytes, perhaps it to be 1 gig. Save it inside that your 1 terabyte hard drive and keep the 1 terabyte hard drive. It's always good to have both the virtual record, which is one you save on the drive, whether it's OneDrive, whether it's Dropbox, whether it's Google Drive. It's good to have that one, so you save it there. But it's also good to have that physical one you have kept in an external hard drive, so that in 4 or 5 years' time, if fire does not burn the external hard drive or you don't damage it, it will be there. Same thing for all the other ones that you do. So if you keep all those records safely, both the virtual one and the physical one, it might be 5 years' time that you would need the voice again, or you need the contact again, or a lawsuit might happen, and you realize that you still need the information. All you need to do is either go to your drive, your virtual drive, or you go to your physical hard drive and extract the information, because you have labeled the folders properly to be easy for you to navigate and get the information you need. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. So we have the next question from Fawaz at ABC. The session was really great. And, the facilitator has balanced everything by saying that putting everything in place still won't guarantee your safety, but just reduce the risk. So it's just more or less like a comment. We have another one from Pauline Oyebi. Good morning, all from Bayelsa. Mine is on AI. What is the place of AI in all this? Since in all our works, you should at least get closer to the people and place. Like in Bayelsa State, the terrain is difficult, and you must get there before even doing anything. They won't also understand what you mean by artificial intelligence. So that is, the person is asking about AI and we going for interview in a case study of Bayelsa State, that how the people might not understand the artificial intelligence. Do you get that, Mr. Akimbajo?
Yes, I think I have an idea of what the person is asking.
Okay.
My own advice on adoption of AI for journalists is that first, we cannot do away with it. It's a reality we have to live with. That's first. So whether we like it or not, it's a reality we have to live with. Secondly, is that journalists must see AI as a tool to enhance their journalism, not as something to replace proper reporting or proper writing. So it's a tool to enhance our journalism. In terms of safety and the rest, there are AI tools to help you with easy transcription. There are AI tools to help you with easy editing of videos and the rest. But like I mentioned during the presentation, no AI tool will help you go to Sagbama community in Bayelsa or Ogbia North. No AI tool will help you go there and do the interviews or identify the people to be interviewed. So when it comes to actual field reporting, especially when it's for investigative stories, reporters, journalists themselves must do it. AI will remain on your phone or on your laptop because AI has to work on a digital tool, right? Or your desktop, whatever. It will be there. But you have to do the legwork. And before we go to the field, apart from security awareness and stress assessment that we discussed, part of the pitching process also is that we must do we must have what we call our source guide. So before you even go to Ogbia local government or Sagama local government in Bayelsa, whether it's by road or by boat or by canoe, you must do this same stress assessment, this 4-step cycle talking about. But you must have prepared a source guide to ensure that you know what you are going to do there. Several times you see journalists travel for story. They arrive in the community and then they go, yeah, hey, all the people I want to talk to, nobody wants to talk to me here. I say, didn't you do your source mapping before you traveled? If we do our pitching very well, if we do our source mapping very well, you see that you will not go to the field and then not be sure who to talk to or who want to talk to you. Because one of it is that before you even leave to even go to the field, you must have identified who you will talk to, what questions you would ask them, and you must have contacted them one way or the other to see whether they'll be willing to talk to you, whether through a fixer or yourself directly. Almost everybody in Nigeria, almost every adult in Nigeria now has the kind of phone, whether it's smart or not. Almost all young people have social media handles. There is hardly any village in Nigeria now, whether in Bayelsa or Sokoto or in Katsina or York, that you won't find somebody from there that is on Twitter or Facebook. It's almost impossible in Nigeria today.
The session on was just done. We're going to move now to the next session, but we're going to give an exact 5 minutes bio break. So you want to quickly go to the restroom, you want to make one call, please don't get into a bus or start a journey. Just a bio break, just so that you can get up and stretch your legs. We'll do that right now. So in exactly 5 minutes, we will come back to continue the session. And as you can see, our next resource person is already in the room. Mr. Yusuf Ali, Managing Editor, Northern Operations of the Nation newspaper. So let's go ahead and take that break. We have 4 minutes more for the break, and we'll all be back here by exactly 11:07. 11:07, we'll all be back here. Thank you.
Nice to see you again, Moto.
Nice to see you.
I didn't know that you can add weight like this.
I think it's the picture doing. I think it's zooming, playing a trick.
The children.
They are fine. We thank God. We thank God. Good to see
Thank
you.
God.
How is Auntie?
Fine.
Yeah. How's that?
And we have some traditional names here.
Okay.
When you hear about Agoluaji,
Yes,
that
sir.
must be an Ibadan name.
Okay.
What
For those of you that
Ofoja
go on the
manager
bio
Shama?
break, I like to go to visit to teach us.
Manager Shama, not
You
Ibadan
are
man.
can you imagine?
Yeah.
I assume that Agoluaji they are playing in Ibadan.
Yes, people say so. But
Yeah,
we have a lot of traditional leaders in Ilesha who be Agbuluaje.
Oh.
maybe you should trace your route to Ibadan.
No. Even in Ila, there is Agbuluaje in Ilaso. Ilarogo, there is Agbuluaje also.
Yes. What of Pauline Oyibe?
Pauline, are you there?
Our auntie is there, of Juliana Francis, as usual. Maria Malo. Ridwan Yusuf.
Yes,
Mariam is the one that wrote you from the BSIJ.
Yes, I know.
He's our son to be.
Okay. Also, he's a lawyer. She's a lawyer.
Yes, she's a lawyer.
That's good. So, you are our in-house advocate.
yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure to see you in person.
Either Nuruddin or Mariam would continue.
I don't care. I don't know. So, with Mariam on standby, my job is easier.
Okay, well, welcome back. It's 07.
Thank you, everyone. And we have to continue with the next session, which is the topic. Moving on to the third session with the topic, can you defend this story? That is a very big question, for an investigative journalist that we have in the room. So can you defend the stories, legal safety for investigative journalists? So in this session, participants will understand the legal risk and also how they can have a practical guidance on how to report responsibly while protecting themselves and their work from legal exposure. It is my pleasure to introduce our third facilitator in person of Mr. Yusuf Ali. Yusuf Ali oversees northern operations at the Nation newspaper, providing editorial leadership and strategic direction across the newspaper regional coverage. With decades of experience spanning reporting, editing, and editorial management, he has held key leadership positions at several leading Nigerian newspapers. Widely respected for his expertise in media law, editorial standard, and newsroom practice. His experience defending journalism against legal challenges offer practical guidance on mitigating legal risk in investigative reporting. Mr. Yusuf Ali, over to you. Thank you for joining this conversation.
Thank you, Nuruddin. My colleagues, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, I try to remember as many names as possible. I went through the list. I'm not a lawyer. I've been a journalist all my life. And we are lucky that we have somebody who will defend us in the house. Mariam Allah is there. So if we go wrong, she will correct us. First of all, I want to appreciate Wale Soyinka Center for sustaining the vision of the founder of this center. We have all, in one way or the other, benefited from the center. Join me to appreciate the CEO, Mr. Motunrayo. He's doing a very good job. We appreciate you. Please sustain it. In Lagos, there's what we call last man. Wole Soyinka Center appears to be the last institution standing supporting media development. And we appreciate Sister Motun for being the last person, the last chairperson doing the coordination. My colleagues, we are in a business where we need to ask ourselves constantly, can I defend this story? Can I write this story? Can this story go? Will my editor appreciate this story? We have had situations whereby editors will throw your story to the trash can. I don't know whether some of us have experienced it. Some stories we have had cause to sweat over it. Sometimes when we write stories, we assume it will make the cover. We conclude that it will be used. It's a must. My editors cannot throw this story away. And by the time you go through your medium the following day, the story was found not suitable for publication. So, and then most often, the stories we write, investigative stories we write, and we defend it. I assume about 30 or 40 of us, or 30 of us in the house, we should be about 28 now. We are all investigative reporters or aspiring investigative reporters. I could see some of our colleagues, FIJ, and we'll later interact to get to know who we are. Now, what is investigative reporting? Investigative story is more or less the unexpected, the unusual, the unveiling of what some people or some sources, some contacts try to hide. It is not the run-of-the-mill story. It's a story you have to dig, you have to unearth. Just put yourself in a position of a bricklayer a mine digger. If you work in the mines, it can be strenuous. And that is what it takes to be an investigative reporter. Please, let me scroll the. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah. We are now on the next page.
Done with the preamble, and we know what investigative report is all about. The dynamics of investigative reporting. Look at some of the illustrations I've put in place. A short while ago, a young man, the editor of a Premium Times, one of the respected medium, constantly churning out investigative stories. This same medium broke a story on a certificate scandal by a minister. The same medium did a similar story on Kemi Adeosun. So if you look at what we have now, we have samples on the screen of different investigative stories. No medium is too big. No medium is too small. No medium is underrated. We are all in the business of serving the society, writing in the public interest, so we can, any of us is capable of writing an investigative story. The real challenge we have is, can we defend the story? So constantly, as we are working on copies, we'll be asking ourselves, can we defend the story? What are the characteristics of investigative stories? One, they draw curiosity, very interesting story. It can be amazing when a woman sleeps with her son because the husband is a eunuch. Very amazing. Whistling, it can be hot, like we did the encounter in Sahara Reporters, FIJ, ICRI, and our various media. It can be emotional. Some days ago, DJ Copy said she can never marry the Nigerian. That's so emotional. If we dig further, who exactly broke her heart to have said that? An investigative story can come out of that. Investigative stories are truthful. If you go through some newspapers, you will see examples. I posted a story here, how we plan Adelabu's sister, our twins kidnapped by Tribune. Can you imagine? Factual, emotional, but at the same time, investigative story can be slippery. That is, when you can't defend it, then it becomes a problem. Investigative story can be emotionally and morally challenging. Imagine you writing a story, for instance, if you are from Ikwe to Modu, and your monarch was involved in scam abroad. If you are a prince and you are a journalist, it can be morally demanding and emotional challenging for you. So, investigative story can be quick win, but most often they are long time. The gestation period is longer because you have to tie loose ends to be able to get to the root of it. It is time consuming because it has many flags. What are the gains of investigative story? The gains of it are good. I can say all my life, since 1989, I indulge in writing investigative stories. They give me joy because I try to uncover what sources try to hide. But what are the gains of investigative story? I want to inspire you this morning. When you write any investigative story, you are able to ensure fairness and justice. The fact that you are pursuing the truth makes you happy. You preserve the values of a society. We are in a complex society now. Court scale, school principal beheaded, mass teacher killed, principals abducted, so many. Our value is treated. But with investigative story, you preserve the values of the society. You enhance development in the society. I hope you know who we call, which minister was Olokunkun of Okunkun. A minister was named that. It looks like a joke, but he was called Olokunkun. That is one who presides over darkness for the benefit of Pauline. And that was the former minister of power. When you rise on darkness, blackout, high cost of gas, lack of rules, you are enhancing development because you draw the attention of the powers that be to that through investigative story. Career progression. A young man just left you. Idris. Within a short time, he distinguished himself and he became an editor, the editor of Premium Times. His career progression. It attracts investigative stories, attract honors and awards beyond our immediate environment. Wole Soyinka Center is always churning out awards at the end of the year to appreciate our roles. Then, if you're an investigative reporter, You can do a story that will make you a hero forever. One of us in Nigeria won Dele Olojede, won a political prize. Can we forget our leader, our editor, our publisher, Dapo Olonyomi? Some people were heroes of June 12, 1993 election. They risked their life. Recently, or last week, they were honored by the president. So these are the gains, some of the gains of investigative stories. There are also risks associated with investigative story. Nobody likes an investigative reporter. So it brings odium, threat to life, arrest and detention. Those who cannot win, but they waste your time and sue you, defamation lawsuits. If you are reckless as an investigative reporter, a court can ask you to pay damages. And of course, it can result in death. Some of our colleagues in Gaza, West Bank, even in Nigeria here, like the late Bagauda Kalto, was killed. Although he has been honored by the Lagos State government, a press center was built in his name. What are the landmines or inhibition to the defense of a story? Can you defend a story? What are those things that will make a story indefensible? False or poor or bad, clumsy stories. When your story is clumsy, if it is poor, if it is bad, that even to an average reader, they will say, why should Yahoo write this kind of story? Why should Agbolu Aje write this kind of story? Why should Fawaz write this kind of story? Unbalanced copies. If your copies are unbalanced, you cannot defend a story. You must give audience to everybody, give voice to everyone. You must be fair to all you have mentioned in a story or institutions or society or communities. Lack of due diligence. What just a short while ago, we were talking of Sagbama. Yes, you may have AI, 1,000 AI, but you have to visit Sagbama. And that is why you are a journalist, whether it's risky, whether the society is hostile or not. As an investigative reporter, you have to devise means of doing it. Sponsored deals. Some of us, because of pittance, 50,000, 100,000, even 10,000, we write stories. If you are sponsored, then you cannot defend a story. And it's often common in this political era. Politicians, they want to infiltrate journalists. just to sponsor a story. Poor editing and untidy gatekeeping. When you are writing a story, if the criminal is Yusuf Ali, and in editing, you put Yusuf Allah, if there's any Allah, that Allah will sue you. So untidy gatekeeping, that really it also applies to our editors. When you submit copies, then they change the focus of your story, or they put one or two paragraphs that you didn't add, then you can't defend the story. Breach of ethics or non-adherence to ethics. We have ethics and we must keep to it. Section 22 of the 1999 Constitution empowers us to practice our job unhindered, but we must, for every duty, we also owe the society a responsibility. We should be self-respecting, we should be honest, and we must ensure integrity. Sources of a story and libel. These are sources that will that can make or mar your story. So we have 5 senses. The 6th sense that will guide you to know whether a story is defensible or indefensible is that you must have a 6th sense. And you must have the ability to sniff. If somebody walks up to you and say, let me give an example of a libel case, a story that was indefensible. We have a medium, very popular medium in Abuja. We call it Berekete. Some years ago, Berekete ran a story that Yayi, Adeola Yayi, who wants to be governor of Ogun State, was a drunkard. And this is a man who has never tasted alcohol in his life. He's a teetotaler. He has gone to court now. The man will settle out of court. The man doesn't agree. We have a story of Chief Afibarola and Famuroti. You're all familiar with that. There are some stories you should ask yourself if you get story from contacts are good, but also apply the 6th sense. You are grateful to your contacts, but do due diligence so that you can defend the story. There are documents from official or non-official links. Some years ago, I got a document about Obasanjo writing a letter to President Jonathan. I ran into trouble with the letter. I was eventually arrested. So when you get stories from official and unofficial links, you need to verify legislation. In the last few days, Oshiomole and Akpabio and Natasha, many things, many stories will come. Yesterday, the Senate recanted on audit queries given to customs. The same yesterday, a court in the UK cleared the Zani Alizimadweke of fraud. Imagine all the stories. I'm also guilty. We have written about Alizimadweke. If she comes back to the country, she can sue any newspaper, and you should ask yourself, can I defend this story? The court, some days ago, over 600 Boko Haram members were raised in the court. And the accounts they were using to collect a ransom were mostly UBA accounts. So imagine if you go, you can't write such a story without to defend it, you must hear from UBA. We also get stories from investigation agencies. We get statements from politicians, military, MDAs, associations or groups, comments by analysts on TV, radio, and social media. We have to be very careful. Then, of course, adverts. Even with adverts, you may not be able to defend the story. Then copy and paste extracts from online. We are all victims of that now. So legal safety, what are the legal safety for investigative journalists? How do we make our story defensible? What can we do legally to defend our stories and to protect ourselves? The first job we have to do, we owe ourselves, is devotion to truth, which is the hallmark of journalism. We should rise above partisanship. Truth, but nothing but the truth. Maria, my Lord, will put us through. She's an officer in the temple of justice. But the lawyer will say, when you are swearing, that you say the truth and nothing but the truth. You should prioritize public interest. When you run into trouble with any story, any investigative story, your greatest defense in the court have won up to 13 libel cases is that you can justify that you wrote in the public interest. Because writing a good story is a constitutional duty. When you are fair to all, you are protected. Your story is protected, you are protected, and your medium is also protected. Always rely on verifiable documentary evidence. And that is why it is necessary for us to keep our documents. Editor Idris Akinbajo explained this a short while ago. Another legal safety is that we should fact check your story, fact check information, double check or cross check your sources and information. We should avoid malice. We should read widely. For you to defend a story, you have to read widely, you surf the net, you even listen to gossip. Because the stories you are working on may have been used or may not be true. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, a story broke out, purportedly broke out, that a deputy commissioner of police in Lagos State was abducted and he died in custody. Some of us rushed to the press. We published, only to discover that the man has been sick for a while and he died. You should also protect your sources. It's part of legal safety with encrypted communications. Keep sensitive documents and data. Collaborate with trusted media networks for strength in number. You should have knowledge of media law. If a story is delicate, you will know. If a story is indefensible, if you have a rudimentary knowledge of media law, you will know. You can create a law corner or adopt experienced lawyers as backup. When the news magazine was established by Ogadapo Olonyomi and others, former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, as a struggling lawyer, was the counsel to the news. Each time they got any big story, they were seeking his advice, whether the story was publishable, whether the story was defensible. It used to be the butt of jokes in Abuja anytime the vice president attended the media functions. He said he was the lawyer to the news, but he was not paid for his consultancy. Consult media lawyers for pre-publication review. The best and the most courteous legal safety, my colleagues, I want to appeal to you. Don't rush to the press. Ask or mirror yourself. Like a Rotarian, subject yourself to the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? If you have this, the Bible says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Your soul is your integrity. Your soul is your diligence. Your soul is your fairness to all. Your soul is devotion to truth. And with that, you can defend your story. The Guardian, when it was established in 1983, adopted a motto: conscience is an open wound. Only truth can heal it. My colleagues, the notes we have compared, they are inexhaustible. We should ask ourselves whether or not we are living up to the bidding of conscientious investigative journalists. This is my paper. I'm open to questions. I await your contributions too, so that we can interact. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that wonderful session. It is really mind-blowing, and a lot was said, a lot. And I'm very sure that people on the call will have, gotten a lot to pick from. And now this is time for question and answer. So the chat box is open. You can, send your questions there for clarification. And we have, the veteran in the house with his expertise in legal and media law ethics. So please feel free to ask your question, the chat box, or if you want to raise your hand, you can freely do that while we pick you. So we're having this session for 10 minutes. Yeah, let's have your questions. So let's have your question. While we are waiting for that, we have dropped a link on the chat box for you to fill it. Is very important. Is for our internal assessment about today's trading, because of course tomorrow we go again. So let us know your feedback about today's session so that we can prepare better for that tomorrow as well. Yeah, we have a question here from Ridwan Adiola Yusuf. Good morning, sir. Let's take for instance a special report on the Mercury waters of alleged rape or sexual assault, where credible reports have shown cases of individuals being arrested for making accusations against others due to personal grievances. In such complex situation, how can journalists effectively defend their reporting and establish that the sexual act in question was truly non-consensual? That is coming from Ridwan Adiola.
Thank you so much. Like I give an example, you should be fair to all sides. I want you to, when I was a correspondent in Nevada, there was no GSM then. Then I got a report that a DPO was sexually molesting a detainee in the cell. So I disguised. I went with one of the brothers of the girl, and I disguised. We went to greet the girl in the cell. She spoke with me. I recorded her voice, and we spoke at length. She also said the sexual assault used to be between 9 and 10 p.m. So again, we pretended as if we were bringing food in the night. And they were caught in the act. They were doing it. They were having fun. The mom was sexing the girl. She was not in the cell. She was in the DPO's office. When we supposedly brought her food. After I got everything, I also interviewed the DPO, confronted the DPO with my evidence, and I published. When it has to do with sexual assault, let your mind as a journalist be open. You are not to justify whether the act was committed or not. If anybody was arrested, talk to the police, talk to the victim. Of course, sexual assault, they will always deny. So whoever rapes anybody will deny it. And before any rape is justified, you need to follow sexual offenders, development in sexual offenders tribunal in Lagos. They will even go to the hospital to confirm semen, specimen, and others. It is an investigation that will take time. You have to be fair to all, including the relatives of the suspect who is claiming innocence. It's not complex. It's not even murky. It only requires due diligence. All parties, all sides to the story must be got. You must have all the voices to your story. Because there are some innocent victims that, as an investigative reporter, you need to save. Some have not some suspects have really not committed the crime. And that is why when a chief judge visits prison for prerogative of mercy, they look at the merit of each case. Again, sometimes the suspect will tend to defend. They can be terrible. Look at the suspect behind the kidnap of Adelabu's sister's kids, twins. He was in prison before, but he was granted the prerogative of mercy. He claimed to be innocent. Only for him to come out, he planned another kidnap. So we have to be very careful. But as long as it's not a serious, it's not a delicate story you cannot do. You can do it, but have an open mind. Don't defend anybody. Listen to all sides.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Have an open mind. Don't defend anybody. Listen to all sides. That is very, very important. Thank you so much, sir. So we are still expecting more of our questions. And in the chat box, we have resent the link again for the post-link survey so that we can help us to fill it to know, your feedback about today's training sessions. We also, continue tomorrow by the exact time, 9 a.m. tomorrow as well for the day 2 part of this workshop. So, okay, we have another, okay. So we are waiting. You can raise your hand up if you want to ask your question directly. You can also drop your question via the chat box. You can do that. So don't let us forget to click the link in the chat box for us to have our feedback. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want us to do for tomorrow in terms of your feedback. We can also take that to effect as well. We are waiting for our question so that you can utilize this wonderful time with our veteran in the house. And a lot of things were said, and I'm very sure that every one of us have take a lot of things to note and to work with, from the Muturiah session to Idris Akinbajo session and to Mr. Yusuf Ali's session as well. So a lot of things were said, and it is our joy, it's what we expect, that every participant take this to action for their investigative stories reporting, both the legal aspect, both the safety aspect, both the awareness aspect as well. So all of these things have been mentioned to us. Let us try to put it into action for us to do better as an investigative journalist, and also for our stories as well, so that at the end of the day, you won't have reason to fear, or you have reason to face the legal consequences of what you've done without following the proper, the ethical part and other things you have to do in terms of your security and safety as well. While we are expecting our questions, I think that is the last part of this training session today, before we call it a day and resume tomorrow at 9 a.m. And also, we also have to turn on your videos, all participants, for us to have a virtual, group photograph. That is very, very important, for us, and also for everyone on the call. While we don't have questions for now, can we all turn our videos, every one of us? Since 9 a.m. we have been here, even some before 9 a.m. For this 3 wonderful session. Yeah, let us turn on our videos. Felicia Inwosu, Kingsley, Jeremiah, Victor, Olawale Oderinde, Ridwan. Let us turn our videos. Mary Abayomi, Abdulkabir Tijani, every one of us. Juliet, Fawaz, Adebisi, Juliana Francis, you can see your video. Thank you. So let us turn our video.
Please remove everyone from pin.
Okay.
So that we can have. We're not seeing Mr. Yusuf Ali's picture face.
You have not seen me?
Yeah, we can't see your face, sir. Perhaps maybe your video is off.
Okay.
You can turn
I think
it on.
your camcorder is covered. Your video is on, but
okay.
All right.
Yeah, we have Techno KM5. Please turn on your video. OEM Willie, right? Please turn on your video. Let's see your face. Thank you.
It's now on.
Yes, we can see your face now, sir. It's now on. Yes. Victor, please let's do this fast. Kingsley, Jeremiah, Naziru Idris Yahu. If you are with us, let's see your face.
When are we going to hear from Maria Malo, our in-house lawyer?
Very soon. She's preparing for her debut. Our huge. It will be huge. It will be massive.
Rotimi.
And I could see that we are 20 years old already.
Yes. Yes,
that's a big one.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, just like yesterday.
Yeah. Because obviously you take this picture before people change their minds.
Yeah, we are doing that.
Mariam, are we on
All
track?
Right. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a wonderful, sessions all day from 9 a.m. to this time. We want to really appreciate everyone on this call and also our facilitators from Motrayo Alaka to Idris Akimbajo and to Mr. Yusuf Ali. Thank you so much for your expertise, for your experience, making it practical for our participants to understand what it means to be a safe, to operate safely, yeah. So, and also know what it takes in terms of the digital risk and also the physical aspect, the building awareness for safety for investigative journalists. It's a lot, and also the legal aspect as well. We want to sincerely appreciate, your time and your contributions as our resource person, and also everyone on this call. It is a big thing for us because for 3 hours straight session is something is very, very important to you and also to us at WSCIJ. So it's on that note, we say thank you to everyone on this call, and we hope to see you tomorrow. And please, if you have not filled the post-event survey, it's very, very important. You have to get your feedback and know what we get right, and also to do better tomorrow for the second session. It's very, very important. Thank you so much, and God bless you. We hope to see you tomorrow by 9 a.m. as well for us to have the second leg of this workshop. And also for tomorrow, we having our expert that will be talking about the data security. Musrael mentioned that briefly in our presentation, and also the mental health part as well. So these are a lot for we have tomorrow 9 a.m. We look forward to having this conversation with you. Thank you, and God bless. Stay safe. Thank you. Bye.